Would like to thank you, Gurudev, 'cause your children couldn't thank you enough. Welcome everybody to talk 4 in our series of talks. And these are talks that are given each week on the first Sunday at 4 p.m. London time. The talks start on the first Sunday of the month with Paul Mason, who's very kind enough to join us for some of the other meetings as well. But he's the primary speaker each month. And with that, I'm going to introduce Bob Schulte, and he will introduce himself and his subject today. Bob?
Yes, thank you. All right. So I am Bob Schulte. Um, just a little bit about myself. I started practicing transcendental meditation back in 1976 when I was a senior in high school. And uh, through college, I experimented with a lot of other paths, both Vedic and non-Vedic, and ultimately decided that this deep meditation was the best experience I've had, and learned the cities program, and a couple of years later moved to Fairfield, Iowa, where I spent a year on creating coherence program. It was kind of a forerunner of the Citizens Thousand-Headed Purusha program. So I spent a year rounding and ended up living there for 14 years. A few years later, I did another 1 year stint of rounding on CCC. And I've been meditating since 1976 and cities since 1980, although for a long period I drifted away and studied some bhakti yoga paths and followed another guru, but ultimately realized I needed to come back to this core experience of transcendence, and became so inspired that a couple of years ago I decided to join the teacher training class, the first one given by ITMA. And I've been doing some teaching since then. Uh, I'm retired from my architecture career, and these days kind of split my time or between working at the Hindu temple down here in Fort Myers, Florida. I assist our priest. They call me assistant priest. Uh, Although I'm really, uh, I don't know, as far as puja and such goes, I still consider myself a beginner. And in fact, many ways, I consider myself a trained monkey. When we do puja, I know when to offer a spoonful of water or pour the milk or offer a flower and such. But as far as knowing the hours of Vedic chanting and such, that's really beyond me. But I'd like to share what I do know, what little bit I do know. And, honestly, one thing I think I've learned from meditation is that there's only one thing we can truly know. And that is simply that we are. Just being is the only thing we can actually know. Everything else is an extrapolation, it's a belief. And so what I'm sharing is my understanding. I could have some mistakes or omissions, but I'd like to share what I do know. Um, so, uh, so the inspiration for my talk today. Uh, Last week, when Roland was talking, he had mentioned that when we were together in Sringeri Mutt, uh, every evening the Shankaracharya, Sri Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahasinidhanan, uh, gives a very elaborate Saraswati Abhishek Puja. And Roland stated last week that he heard our Guru Puja in the middle of that puja. And I wanted to reply, but we'd run out of time and the meeting ended. And so the next day I thought, I could take my reply and kind of expand on it and give a talk about puja. So Maharshi actually introduced puja to the TM community. First with the Guru Puja we use for initiation, and then later on, the whole Yagya program is based on uh, elaborate pujas for specific benefits or healing different malefic influences in our life. And other sciences he gave us, such as Tapatya Veda, use puja. There's the groundbreaking puja, and then the puja when you move into a new house. So puja is really uh, a big part of Vedic culture and Vedic science. And so I kind of wanted to talk about it. Uh, However, I kind of forgot, maybe we should start with a short group meditation. Uh, if everyone would like to do that, we could sit for about 5 or 10 minutes and meditate. So I will continue from where we left off before our group meditation. Um, in fact, I'm mostly going to read off of the script here since I uh, didn't really have enough time to prepare all of this. So, as I had said, my inspiration for this talk was last week when Roland had mentioned that when we were visiting Sringeri Mutt last year, uh, the Shankaracharya, uh, his name is Sri Sri Bharati Tirtha Mahasannidhanam, performs a Saraswati puja, uh, goddess Sharadamba Abhishek puja every evening. And Roland had mentioned last week that he heard our Guru Puja in the middle of that performance. And I wanted to kind of comment on what it was he had heard. And then also, as I had mentioned, Maharshiji had introduced all forms of puja uh, to the TM community. Both the Guru Puja we perform before initiation, as well as the entire Yagya program consists of very elaborate pujas for healing specific uh, conflicts in our Jyotish or for achieving certain goals. And other sciences he brought to us, even Sthapatya Veda, the science of architecture. There's puja that's performed during groundbreaking of a new building, and another puja performed when the building is complete and you move in. So there's all types of pujas that we perform. And I've always been interested in, where did this knowledge come from? Maharshi liked to present it in a very scientific, non-secular Western terms. But personally, I'm more interested in finding where it came from, and what was Guru Dev all about, and the Shankaracharya tradition. And so that kind of led me to dive into Hinduism in my lifetime, and ultimately, uh, after I'd moved to Florida here about 9 or 10 years ago, our priest at the local Hindu temple recruited me to start working with him as his assistant. And so I've learned a little bit about puja over the years. Uh, I assist him in all the pujas, but if he's not present, I can play a recording of him chanting the mantras for an hour or two while I do all of the offerings and such. And some pujas I do on my own. I do the evening arti by myself. I do Saturday morning Navagraha puja and Shani puja, um, and other things. So what is puja? Uh, the term puja kind of roughly translates to reverence or homage or adoration, sometimes worship. But there's numerous purposes. In most cases, puja is quite religious. Uh, Sometimes it's secular with kind of religious overtones, and sometimes it's just purely a secular celebration. Uh, so so typically puja is a form of religious worship of one or more deities, or sometimes to your guru or spiritual lineage. Um, other times, well, just kind of a list of different things puja is used for. One form is a form of just bhakti, of ritual worship of God. Sometimes it's used as honoring your guru or your spiritual lineage. Uh, in non-secular forms of puja, uh, uh, school children often perform a puja to their school teachers as a form of honoring and surrendering to them, accepting their knowledge. And children often do a puja ceremony for their parents in order to honor their parents. Uh, Sometimes, a non-secular puja is done just to greet an honored guest. And those of us on the ITMA teacher training course um, a year and a half ago in India, when we arrived at the resort we were staying at for 2 months, the owners and the staff came out and performed a little puja to their guests. They put tilak on our foreheads, put flower garlands around our necks, uh, chanted a few shlokas, and waved the arti lamp in front of us. And, and that was actually a form of puja, a way of honoring us. Um, Other purposes for puja, people typically do a puja on their birthday or their anniversary to mark special dates in their life. Um, as I said, puja sometimes is for invoking specific blessings or boons. And people always come to the temple and ask Panditji to perform a puja or an archana or something to get God's blessings for a problem they have in their life, or a goal they want to achieve, or blessing a new venture like a new job. Um, and then Maharshi, as I said, kind of introduced this type of puja in his yagya program. Um, Another type of puja that's done by Hindus is a puja to honor your deceased relatives. And that's typically done on the anniversary of the day that your loved one passed. And also, this puja called Pitru Paksha or Shraddha is performed yearly during the month of Bhadrapada. And during a 16-day period, uh, people come to the temple to have a puja done for the sake of their loved ones who have passed away. And it's partly about honoring and connecting with them, and more so about actually giving them blessings to help them move on to their next life very smoothly. Um, and then there's pujas that are done in the temple. There's regular weekly pujas, like every Monday is the day for Lord Shiva. So we do a Shiva Abhishek. Every Saturday is the day for Navagraha, the 9 planets of astrology. So we do Navagraha Puja on Saturdays. And on the lunar calendar, on Ekadashi, we always do a Krishna Puja. And on full moon, we always do Satyanarayan Puja. And so on. There's so many things. And then there's big once a year ceremonies like Shivaratri or Janmashtami, where very grand pujas that last a couple of hours are performed. And then Hindus have rites of passage. There's a puja that's done when a baby is born, and another one done on a prasana, the first time he eats solid food. And wedding ceremony is a type of puja, and a funeral is another type of puja. So life events are marked with a form of puja. As I'd mentioned, beginning the construction of a new home or entering a new home, Griha Pravesh is another type of puja. And pujas are done, to for what I say, for an auspicious beginning of new ventures, a new job or business, and even a new car. Vahana puja is done when someone buys a car. They come in to have their car blessed. So there's all types of reasons to do puja. Um, so I'm not seeing. Okay, so types of puja. There are uh, various forms of puja. Uh, and basically, this is more of an outline of a puja. And the priest always has discrepancy to insert various well-known shlokas into the different parts of the puja. And and this is actually why Roland heard our puja when the Shankaracharya was doing his grand puja, because pujas, like I said, they're an outline, and then different portions, certain Vedic phrases or shlokas are inserted in different places. And so our puja that we've learned from Maharshi involves a lot of very what we say, commonly used prayers or shlokas that Hindus chant every day or use in their home pujas. So the first type of puja is called Shodashopachara. It's the puja with 16 steps. And and this is the puja that Maharshi taught us that we use for initiations. And what he gave us was a very scaled down, simplified version of the puja. He made it easy for Westerners with little or no knowledge of Sanskrit or Vedic rituals. He made it easy for us to learn. So he gave us a very simplified version, but it clearly fits under the Shodashopachara classification. A second classification that's used for shorter pujas in the temple. If someone comes in and wants a quick puja, maybe only 10 minutes long, and the type of puja that Hindus might perform at home as part of their daily sadhana or spiritual practice might be a uh, pancho panchopachara pancha upachara puja. It has only 5 steps, and those steps are pretty much representing our 5 senses, and they include gandham or chandanam, offering sandalwood paste or other powders, basma, kumkum, or such. And then pushpam, which is offering flowers, dupam, which is offering incense, deepam, which is offering light or the arti lamp, and naivedyam, which is offering food. Um, and then there's much more elaborate puja that's done for uh, larger events, and that's the Chatushashti Upachara, which is a puja with 64 steps. Um, Now, a very quick, simple puja that people come into the temple and ask for quite often is called Archana. And Archana can actually be part of the Shodashopachara puja. Um, and basically, Archana involves chanting 108 or 1,000 names of the deity or the guru being honored, and a flower or flower petals are offered with each name. And so that's Archana. Um, and then Arti, which again is part of a longer puja, but Arati is also performed typically at the end of the day or early in the morning, and it involves waving a lamp in front of the deity. Typically, it's done with what's called Panch Arati, a lamp with 5 separate ghee wicks. Another elaborate puja we do quite often is called Abhishek. Abhishek is a ritual bathing, and typically in Abhishek, after all of the preliminary prayers and portions of the puja, we start by offering what's called Panch Amrit. Panch Amrit means the 5 nectars, and those 5 nectars are milk, yogurt, ghee, honey, and sugar. And typically they're offered one at a time. Sometimes they're all mixed together and then poured over the image all at once. And that's usually followed by alternating pouring milk and water over the deity image for an extended period while different hymns are chanted. Uh, Another very elaborate puja is a fire ritual. It's called homa, and homa is, like I say, it's done in a fire pit, and it's a way of connecting with the divine through the medium of fire or agni. And it, typically they'll last at least 2 hours, sometimes longer. And the priest is continuously pouring ladles of ghee into the fire, and then all the participants are throwing handfuls of samagrahi, which is a mixture of grains and legumes and different spices. Now, another much more elaborate puja is called yagya. A yagya basically is a homa, but the strict definition of yagya is that it's a homa performed with a minimum of 3 kundas, 3 separate fire pits, each with its own priest chanting the same prayers at the same time. And and it's performed for a minimum of 3 days in a row. And um, so that's really what a yagya is. I mean, sometimes it can have as many as 100 priests and 100 different fires and can last anywhere from 3 days to a month and can be quite elaborate. And then there's a number of miscellaneous simple pujas that don't neatly fit into these categories, such as the simple puja that our host did for the course participants when we showed up in India on our teacher training course. So, so again, this is uh, different categories of puja, and I'm trying to follow my text here since I didn't really have too much time to prepare for this. I have it kind of written out. So we've talked about the different types of puja um, and how a puja is pretty much an outline of everything that's being done. And the priest kind of inserts different prayers uh, that we would like to have, that he would like to include in the puja. Uh, just a few quick slides. Hindus typically have an altar set up in their home and do a puja themselves. This is a lady performing a simple Lakshmi puja in her home. Um, uh, Another home puja where naivedyam, food, is being offered to the deity. Uh, this is abhishek in a temple where water is being poured over a Shiva linga. Shiva linga is an oval stone that symbolizes Lord Shiva, and another abhishek with Radha and Krishna. Uh, During puja, uh, water that is used for sipping or offering the deities is served from what's called puncha. I can't think of the name of the cup. It's a copper cup that's used to offer. This is an example of punch arati I was talking about. It's got 5 separate ghee wicks, and that's typically used for the arati at the end of the puja. And sometimes the ek arati. Punch means 5, ek means 1. It's just one single uh, flame, and that's always sitting on the altar or in front of the altar during a puja. And sometimes that's used for arati. Uh, a homa is always done in a fire pit, similar to this. And again, the priest is, in this case, is throwing in the samagrahi. Sometimes he's just throwing in the ladles of ghee. This is an example of a yagya. Yagya is more common than we think. This isn't a proprietary thing in the TM movement. It's been done by many different gurus, many different organizations for thousands of years. And so, as you can see, there's numerous kundas or fire pits, each one with a different priest performing a homa. So this is an example of a yagya taking place. And this is a simple wedding ceremony. Again, fire is typically used during the wedding. I had to show. So our puja, Maharshi, he used the format of Schulte puja, and he inserted different elements to create our puja. So every pundit, every guru basically writes their own puja following these specific formats. And so our puja that we perform before initiation has a couple of purposes. Part of it, one purpose is to put the teacher into a very transcendent, settled state of mind so he can deliver the mantra from the level of silence. And the second purpose for our Guru Puja is that it connects us and the new initiate to the spiritual lineage. It's a way of receiving the blessings of all of the gurus back through eternity to the beginning of time. And so for those of us who have learned the puja, we know there's certain sections of it. And the very first section is called Atma Suddhi, or purification. And our Atma Suddhi is extremely simplified. It consists of one verse from Garuda Purana. It's a verse that most Hindus know and recite daily. But typically in the Atma Shuddhi, there's many other elements involved. For instance, just kind of to go through all the steps of a typical Shodashopachara puja. Before puja, the person performing the puja is supposed to first purify himself. Starts by bathing and putting on clean clothes, typically applying tilak or vibhuti. Tilak is this red paste, put a dot on the forehead. Sometimes vibhuti, which is sacred ash, is spread across the forehead. Sometimes other symbols, and sometimes they're put on various parts of the body. And this basically signifies connecting to higher energies and also a protection from negative influences. And then typically in this puja, the next step is a few short mantras asking for your guru's blessings for the mantra or for the puja. Next comes Vigneshvara Dhyanam, which is a few mantras for Lord Ganesh, for the remover of obstacles to basically clear away any obstructions to the benefits of the puja. And it includes mantras, sometimes various mudras or gestures, which stimulates flow of energies in the chakras. Next step is Achmaniyam. And that's where the Panchapatra, that copper pot I showed you, comes in. The priest or the person performing the puja will always use his right hand and take a spoonful of water, and then he transfers it to the left hand and pours the water into his right palm and then drinks it always drink from this bottom portion of the palm. This portion of the palm represents Brahm, or pure transcendental consciousness. Brahm is also an interesting word we should talk about sometime. People often confuse Brahm, Brahma, and Brahman, which are really three different concepts. But, so in Achmaniam, you sip water 3 times from the palm of your hand, and this signifies purifying the speech so that you can perform the puja properly. And typically, simple mantra is chanted: Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. And then you take a spoonful of water into the right hand again and wash the hands while chanting another mantra: Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, and on and on. And again, this signifies purifying the body, uh, preparing you for being able to perform puja. After this, pranayam is performed very briefly. Uh, the same pranayam that Maharshi taught us to practice before meditation. Just just performed a couple of times while chanting Om Bhu, Om Bhu Vaha, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam, and then the Gayatri mantra: Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha, Tat Savitur Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhyo Yona Prachodayat. And so that's chanted while performing pranayam. Um, and then other introductory tasks that may or may not be included in this puja involve invoking the 6 directions: north, south, east, and west, up and downward. And then the holy rivers are, are mantras invoking the holy rivers are chanted to bring the power of the holy rivers from India into the Panchaputra, into the cup of water, and as well as the closest body of water, lake or river. And then both palms are held over the cup while certain mantras are repeated. Um, the next step involves asana, purifying the seat that the guru or the deity is going to sit on. You place your hands on the plate that the deity will be coming to uh, while certain mantras are chanted. Now, the next most important step for preparation for puja that we kind of left out in our puja that Maharshi gave us is called sankalpa. Sankalpa is intention or resolution. And it's kind of a statement expressing the person's desire or purpose for performing the ritual. And it sets the intent and focus. So during Sankalpa, first, the name of the person the puja is being performed for is recited, along with certain astrological data, typically his nakshatra or his birth star, and his gotra or his lineage. And it's said that all humans descend from the 7 original sages that Brahma manifested in the beginning of time. Those 7 sages are Atri, Bharadwaj, Bhrigu, Gautam, Kashyap, Vasishta, and Vishwamitra. And so traditional Hindu Indians have passed down the knowledge of what their gotra is, where their family line has come from. And so they just know what their gotra is. And it's a patriarchal lineage. So when a woman gets married, she accepts the gotra of her husband, and that's passed on to their children. Now, for Indians that have been less traditional and have forgotten their gotra, and for Westerners who don't have a clue what gotra even is, the priest will always assign Kashyap as their gotra for the sake of the puja. Uh, and then after that person's name is given, then different family members can be included, his wife, his children, and so on. And their names, their nakshatra and gotra are recited. Next comes the name of the deity or the guru being honored in the puja. Uh, and lastly, and most importantly, is clearly stating the intention. Why am I doing this puja? It may be wishing for prosperity or good health, or just simply for liberation. And so that's always done in the beginning. Uh, um, and then the other parts of our puja, I was going to go into it, but I think we're kind of running low on time, so I'm not going to go deep into all of it. But as I said, Maharishi gave us a very simplified puja, and it contains all the important parts, so it's an official puja, but not as complex as pujas that Hindus perform on a daily basis. And then typically at the end, that we don't do is pradakshina and namaskaram, which involves circumambulating the deity, walking clockwise around the murti or the image of God. Or if that's not possible, often people will stand and turn clockwise 3 times. And that kind of signifies honoring the divine within our hearts and acknowledging that God is in the center of our being. And after that, typically they bow down or prostrate in front of the deity. And then there's always concluding prayers at the end of a puja. And this is typically done because in a Vedic puja, it's very important that every single step is done precisely and accurately. So the concluding prayers typically ask for forgiveness for any mistakes that were performed. There's always going to be some minor mistakes, mispronunciation or forgetting a step or such things. So anyway, like I said, this is our puja we do for initiations. And then Maharshi also introduced us to other forms of puja, his yagya program, which are advanced pujas for specific boons or corrections to anomalies in our Jyotish configurations. He also, as I had said, introduced pujas for the different Vedic sciences, such as Tapatya Veda, the puja done for beginning construction. And then, of course, Maharshi always had pujas performed during a lot of his big celebrations. So puja is really not that distant from what Maharishi taught us. But I'm going to kind of end my presentation at this point and kind of open the floor. Let me get my screen back up here. So hopefully my picture is back. I'd kind of like to open the floor for any discussion or questions people have. So if anybody would like to comment or ask questions or add anything that I may have left out, I would appreciate.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bob. That was really fascinating. Actually, it's too much for me to take in, too much for me to write down. So I got lazy and I thought, well, I can watch the video. so there we have it.
Yeah, I really blasted a lot of information very quickly. So, I don't want people to follow it too closely.
It's really interesting. I've heard a lot of these terms and have a sort of vague understanding, but you've really detailed it. And as I say, I'm going to need to watch the video and read the book, etc., etc. But I was going to ask you a question, Bob. When I was in India once, I went to various temples. They were sort of historical temples, insofar as they were an object of interest to sort of tourist type visitors because of the architecture and so forth and so forth. So before we left, we were encouraged by a friend of mine to do a puja. And we got involved, my wife and I, and we went and had a puja. and it was not a long one. I would say it was about as long as the TM one, and it was very pleasant. And I wanted to get away because it was a very cold day, and I wanted to get some hot tea. And we were waylaid by some pujaris. Is that what you call them? People
Yes.
who do pujas. And we were waylaid, and they pressed us to come and have a puja at their temple, which was not terribly rational because I don't spread money about. So it wasn't about money. And we just had a puja. So it wasn't that we needed a puja, but we we were persuaded, and it was very beautiful. And the pujari was asking both my wife Kathy and myself for our mothers' names. I can't remember whether they asked for fathers' names or not, but they needed certain detail. This is part of the question. They needed certain detail, which I couldn't kind of figure. It's like, why are you asking these things? And after the puja, I said to the main pujari, what was all that about? You know, like apart from it just being nice, what was it all about? And he said, oh, it's for long life, which made me think there wasn't a category in what you were saying for long life. So I need to know that. But I just want to add a bit more to that story. Is that was on the eve of Diwali, which you know is like a big festival, lots of noises, lots of celebrations. And afterwards, we split company with our friend and we went to another area, which coincidentally had lots of temples, a place called Adi Badri. And Kathy got very ill. But I mean, so seriously ill that it looked like she died.
Mm.
And I was taking her to the hospital, not so much for her to get fixed, but also to find out what had killed her. You know, she was showing no life signs. And then she spluttered back to life. Now, I could tell the whole story about that, but what I'm saying is that this puja, which I'd never heard of for long life, occurred just hours before she was struck by a life-threatening condition, a subanachroid hemorrhage, as it happened. And it struck me that, okay, here we go. Either the puja was there to mitigate against the extreme circumstances, or it caused it. No, I'm joking. But what have you got to say about long life pujas?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the puja actually had some effect on helping her recover from whatever the illness was. I remember reading the story you're talking about on your
Okay.
website. Fascinating. And
It
portion
was
of the story
all,
seemed quite traumatic, actually.
oh, it was ghastly.
Yeah.
You know, some stories are lovely to tell because they were so much fun. This is kind of the pits. It's not.
Mhm.
It wasn't good to go through it, and but we got through it, and she's still about. She's downstairs.
You
So
know, in my opinion, uh, I don't consider pujas to be some, magic wand that,
mm,
magically gives you whatever you're asking for. But uh, it does. I just got to notice that my battery is getting very low here, so I have to plug in a
do a
second.
puja for
But
it. Do a
but
puja.
but um, like I say, I think it can have positive influence, uh, but whether whether it's the exact influence you want, may depend on your karma and such, and how well the puja was done. And if you don't mind, I am gonna pull up my charging cord before I go dead here.
Sure. I mean, to me, my story really exemplifies the fact that it seems to be a technology. You know, it's like, oh, she's got some bad stuff coming health wise.
Yeah,
We need to do something about it. I
right.
mean, in Western medicine, it would be, oh, take this particular medicine. This will
Yeah.
meditate the effects.
Yeah.
Of,
I would never count on pujas or
no,
rituals to replace, medical
no,
care or good diet or
but
such. But
if you read
it's one more tool in the tool chest, in my opinion.
if you read the stories, we then saw about a dozen doctors who couldn't diagnose her
Yeah.
until we got a doctor that could diagnose her and
Mm.
find out. So actually, I mean, the fact that these pujaris could determine that she or I was in need of something is a
Yeah.
whole story in itself. I mean, it's
And on the other hand, it might just be nature intervening that
absolutely,
inspired
absolutely.
the pujari to do that type of puja for you,
But to say,
without
I've
his intellectual understanding that that's what you
sure,
needed.
but I've never come across it before that time, and I've never come across it since. And the funny thing about Hindu ceremonies or those kind of like me getting called Premanand, I was given a name one day. Nobody else has tried to give me a name since. It's not like, oh yeah, we had another long life puja last week or something. These things only happen once. And I can't understand pujas, but I do understand that these things, whether they're pujas or special events to do with the tradition, seem to be noteworthy. They don't seem to be sort of routine. Anyway, just a few
Well, I
observations.
mean, yeah, pujas can be done for specific needs, but as I said, in a Hindu's life, they're also very routine. Uh, very devout Hindus will perform a short puja every single morning in their home altar or
And
go to a temple to have
shopkeepers
puja performed. And so for them, it is a very routine thing.
and shopkeepers do a puja
Oh
over
yeah,
their books, don't they?
yeah, little typically luxury puja for blessings for the prosperity of their business.
Yeah.
You had mentioned at the beginning of the puja, they had asked you for some information,
Yes.
and I, I'm pretty certain what they were asking for was nakshatra and gotra. Again, nakshatra is your birth star that can be found in your Jyotish chart, and then your gotra is your family
Yeah.
lineage. And so Westerners wouldn't have a clue what that is. So a
But
priest typically knows just to say, okay, your gotra is Kashyap.
but I've got to take you up on that one. You
Okay,
said it was the male line, and yet I
right.
specifically remember that we were being asked about the mother line. And
That's
there's
interesting.
one further thing that is that her mother line was the one that gave her the genetic problem for the
Interesting.
yeah, both her grandmothers died of it, and
Hmm.
I think possibly her mother did. So I mean, but it was a female line of her family, and they asked us about the mothers. So
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
interesting.
like,
I've never
whoa,
heard that before. That's
you
interesting.
can't pick it up, can you? Come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I find puja fascinating, but you know, honestly, in my life, I consider puja and all these ceremonies to be very secondary. The center of my life really is twofold. It's deep meditation, silent, you know, uh, returning to that awareness of silent witness. And then the second half of my spiritual life is bhakti, developing devotion to the divine, particularly personified divine. And then all these rituals, all these fancy pujas and such, it's more like a playground for me to play around in. It's a sattvic thing for me to spend my time doing instead of involved in less life supporting things. So, but nevertheless, I kind of got drawn into it, not by my choice. Like I said, I moved here 10 years ago to take care of my dying parents and didn't even know there was a Hindu temple in town. And I just started going on Friday evenings because we were doing Krishna bhajans every Friday evening. And I loved chanting. And after a while, Panditji, our priest, uh, really took a liking to me, and we spent a lot of time talking, and he eventually recruited me to join him as his assistant in the temple. And which kind of freaked me out at first, because for the first couple of years, whenever we had a big public puja and I was there assisting him, he didn't give me a whole lot of training. And so I didn't know what the hell I was doing most of the time. I really felt embarrassed, like, what am I doing here in the front of the room? But little by little over the years, I kind of picked up the parts of the puja that he's doing, and read up on it and learned what was happening and how to do it, and I become fairly proficient for someone who's not properly trained. Our pujari was trained the way that priests have always been trained for millennia. I think at the age of 12, he moved into his guru's ashram, the Gurukul, and lived there for 8 or 10 years, chanting Vedic scriptures and learning puja and how to be a priest, in addition to regular schooling, of course. And so I'm just amazed at how he can just rattle off these 1,000-verse long hymns from memory.
Memory, these
And
guys.
it's just in his consciousness, and I'm just in awe of what he can do.
I've
I
got
just
it.
wish I could get him to learn meditation so he can add the silence to what he does. And I kind of take that as part of my role in the pujas at the temple. I like to kind of slip into as much transcendence as I can hold at the time, to try to bring that silent value to the puja. Because Maharshi taught that's the most important part of yagya. He taught how the silence, without a grounding in pure awareness, the puja is lifeless. And he even talks about how the mantra should be chanted slowly so the pujari can experience the silence in between each sound of the mantras. And so I kind of take that as part of my role, as bringing a level of silence to the room when the puja is going on.
Look, you're not being hit by loads and loads of people asking you loads and loads of questions. So I'm going to spring another one. And this is something that I came across only yesterday. So this is fresh news about Gurudev. I mean, basically, it's something, the wider story I've known a while. And I've been trying to put together the actual story. It seems that Gurudev, at some time whilst he was Shankaracharya, went to Kashmir and performed a special puja up there. I think it's a 9-day one in July. And basically, I was trying to work out when he would have gone, how he would have gone, and whether he really did, or whether it was the people who were telling me about it just wished and wanted it to have happened. Well, yesterday, the guy who was telling me most about it got through to me, and he'd found a diary entry of his, which with the pandit that was actually there witnessing Gurudev doing the puja in this temple in Kashmir. And apparently Gurudev made the fire pit himself out of the bricks. He built it brick by brick. And according to this interview, he uttered a mantra each time he put a brick in. Does that resonate with what you know of these?
Oh, I don't know what they are, but I'm sure there are very specific mantras that should be stated, while building it. But I know at our temple, we periodically have very large homas with, I think last year we had 51 kundas. I think one year we had 108 kundas. And so we build these fire pits out in the parking lot. And of course, nobody knows the proper mantras. We're just stacking bricks. In fact, when I got married at a friend's home in Fairfield. In fact, I was hoping he would be here today. This friend of mine, Tom Brumma, longtime resident of Fairfield, because he knows so much more about puja than I do. I mean, he practiced Sri Yantra Puja for many, many years. It's a practice I understand is very dear to Gurudev's heart. And
Well, that's partly why I brought up the topic, because this is Kashmir Shaivism. That
yeah,
if Gurudev did go up to this particular area, it's the hotbed of Kashmir Shaivism, and that
yeah,
these people,
there's crossovers between the Shankaracharya tradition and
I bet people are very keen
yeah,
on
Kashmiri,
this crossover, because Maharishi got went and visited Swami
Lakshman
Lakshmanju,
Jew, yeah,
and there's a kind of cross pollination between the
yes,
two groups. They were particularly interested to try and prove that this went back a generation, that this went back to Gurudev. I think I have.
oh yeah, all of these. There's a lot of crossover in the different traditions. It's all part of Sanatana Dharma. It's all one family. Yeah. What I was
Being
trying to say was at my friend's home, Tom's home, uh, I had my wedding ceremony done there. We brought in Pundit Sharma from Chicago, and so I built the fire pit myself, just like you're describing. Inside his living room, we had the fire. But I remember stacking the bricks and the 3 tiers and the number of bricks each direction and all of that. And it was very fun. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was following the instructions I was given and just enjoyed it. But I wish
so
Tom
there's
was here because he could give a lot of insight into pujas, having performed them himself. And he used to bring all these gurus, Karunamayi and others, to Fairfield, and they performed homas and yagyas in his barn and such. And so, I mean, anyway, he's not here, so. But
So you were saying how there is a crossover, there is a cross pollination or whatever. I don't doubt it. It's just that from a historical point of view, I don't want it to get made up. I don't want people to sort of say, "Oh, Gurudev did this and he did that," just to because they wanted it to happen. But I do
yeah.
think I found the proof anyway, for what it's
Hmm.
worth. And
Yeah.
the funny bit is that apparently they went in a convoy of lorries. And one of the reasons why this is known about is because there was a small boy there of 7 years old, and he was just aghast at the lorries. He remembers the lorries more than the activity of the Puja or whatever. It's like these Bedford lorries, it's like, wow. But you can imagine a 7-year-old child would. People are fixated with cars at that age or
Well,
motorcycles.
and at that time, there were remote parts of India where they just didn't see cars.
Absolutely. This
I
was
mean, not the
19.
case anymore, but back then it definitely would have been back in probably what was that, the 1930s or 40s?
Apparently, he was also headed for the Amarnath cave where they have
Mm,
an ice linger.
yeah.
But that was cancelled, and he was going to another place, and that was cancelled because it's so close to the partition with the neighboring country that had been partitioned off.
Huh.
Yeah. Just history, but
Yes, it
I'm
is.
just proving that I'm continuing my research work, and this book will come out one
We're
day.
all continuing our research and learning.
It's fun though. I,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I've been on the verge of including this story, but I was really apprehensive that I was just being pushed to to say something which hadn't actually happened. But I really feel confident now that it did happen,
Hmm.
and that I could even present it in a fun way,
Very
with the
fun.
and everything. Yeah.
Very good. So, all right.
It's all right if I have a quick question for you.
Please.
Um, yeah, and thanks. I'm actually in the Fort Myers area myself, and I'm visiting my parents, and I didn't even know that temple was there. So I will come see you at some point.
Uh,
I'm just visiting, but yeah,
who is this?
fantastic.
I don't. Oh, there you are.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
Nick.
sorry.
Hi.
Yes, yes. Hi. I just had a question you talked about, which was really nice to hear. For an initiator, like, or for doing puja, that there's always some little mistake, somebody like a master like you. So, I've been
Don't
an
call me a
initiator
master.
for 4 years, but I'll do puja and then like, oh, I forgot to do something.
Yeah.
Is there something inside the TM puja that asks for that forgiveness, or is that something that we
No,
just do independently?
no, that's something Maharshi left out completely. But like I said, our puja is very, very simple. And and of course, we were given the instruction when I was made a teacher that we try to do the puja perfectly, and we we hold the feeling for each each line that we do and each offering we make and such. But if we make mistakes, just don't worry about it. It's just what it is. Are you an
Like,
initiator yourself?
yeah, yep, yep, yep.
Oh,
For
very
the
nice.
past, I guess, 4 years. So yeah,
Ah,
it's just comforting to hear you say that because there's always something, in the
there
back
will
of my
always be
mind.
mistakes. Yes.
Yeah, and I know that, and nature's coming out exactly how it's supposed to, but at the same time, I'm human, and I'm like, oh, there's a mistake.
Can I point something out which might either humor you or bother you? But I've got a web page with the Puja set up on it. I don't know if you've seen that, Bob, but
Yes,
it's
I have.
got the Dave Nagari script, and as best as I can, I've translated and I've given references to where these verses appear elsewhere. But at the head of it, I think I've got at least, is it two recordings of Maharishi singing the puja? And in one of them, he definitely leaves stuff out.
Even the best make mistakes.
So if he's allowed to leave stuff out, I don't know if he is allowed to leave stuff out, but
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, very good. But yeah, I prefer reading the Devanagari and or at least the transliteration of the Puja rather than the simplified English version, because without at least the transliteration, it's hard to know what the proper pronunciation is.
it's really a big issue, Bob, because when I put whilst I'm putting this book together on Gurudev, I keep kind of like vacillating between actually not putting in the Hindi or the Sanskrit and just cutting it down to the English. And I'm kind of thinking there are people like Bob that want to see it, and I can never make up my mind. So I flip and I flop on it. It's really difficult
I
because
would vote to include it because I appreciate having the background and even if you
because
have the reference of where that shloka comes from.
and that can be very difficult to obtain because a lot of the original publications that quoted these verses didn't tell you where they came from.
Now, in
And
my case, I just learned from experience. The Atma Shuddhi, we have one short verse we recite at the beginning of the puja, and I recognized other people chanting that, while I was in the temple. And so I looked it up, and it turns out it's a very famous verse from Garuda Purana, one of the major Puranas.
brilliant.
And then lots of other verses, I hear chanted, by Hindus. They're just common prayers that.
Is there any correction that you can give me for my webpage on that, or additions? Be really useful because I think a lot of people go there and if there's anything wrong or needs to be added to, it will be good to sort that out.
Yeah. No, I love your webpage. So much information. It's like I still haven't gotten through it all after all these
Really?
years.
Cool. Thank you.
I go back every once in a while. And if anybody doesn't know it, what is your website address, Paul?
I can't remember.
Oh, I was going to say so people could know it and go to it because it's just full of so much knowledge.
It's paulmason.info.
Yeah, that's it.
But that particular page came up because somebody wrote to me and they said, have I got the Dave Nagari for the puja? And they asked me really like comfortably and pleasantly. And I thought, yeah, that'd be nice to have that. But it was completely unobtainable. So I had to create it. And I'm not a Sanskrit scholar. I just do my best. So it was really hard work. And then they told me, once I'd done all that work, they told me that they were in an organization that charged megabucks even just to tell them the puja, let alone the Sanskrit. And I thought, oh, that's nice. So I did all that work for them for absolutely nothing and saved them all that money. So that's wonderful, isn't it? It's great. But that was the origin of that,
As you know, that's kind of one of my pet peeves and kind of why I drifted away from the official TMO is, I don't like this charging large sums of money for
No.
Vedic knowledge. I think, maybe not free. I mean, there should be some dakshina given for learning meditation and such, but it shouldn't be this huge fee setup, in my opinion. Other people disagree with me, but that's the way
Well,
I.
I told you the other day, I was persuaded to learn meditation. I wouldn't have paid money for it, but after I'd learned it, I was only too keen to make a donation.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
that procedure works. And when I got back to London, and I was a wage earner again, I was delighted to send a bunch of money, because by that time like I had no doubt that what I'd done was a good thing. But at the time, I would have resented paying 5 pence or 5 cents, as you would.
I remember when I learned, I think it was $35 I paid, and I kind of resented having to pay $35. I mean,
Well, it's funny,
for
money.
$35, I mean, I could buy an ounce of Primo Acapulco Gold and a pint of beer and fill up the tank of gas and spend the night playing pinball and still have money left over in my pocket.
How
That's too
can
much
you
money
put
to
a
pay.
how can you put a financial value on peace of mind? You can't. It
Yeah,
either costs nothing or everything.
yeah.
It's
But
too,
but
too.
it's the best investment I ever made. I can tell you that.
I can't comment on that. People say things. I don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
Because I didn't pay anything until I gave the donation. So I'm outside of the building on that one.
When I teach meditation, I ask for a donation. Yeah,
Mm,
I have a suggestion. I say, you know,
yeah.
I think you should pay about $200. If it's hard for you to pay that much, pay whatever, donate whatever you can. No judgment. And so far, only one person has paid that full amount, and I'm fine. I'm not doing it to get rich. But really, Guru Dakshina is a common theme in spiritual teachings. You always give a gift, usually monetary, to the
My
person passing
experience
on
is that,
spiritual knowledge, but
yeah,
not
but
in the form of a fee. It's like it's a gift that you give afterwards.
my experience is otherwise. I never did it. I,
Uh-huh.
I end up like giving an apple or, or a
Yeah,
banana.
that's
And
fine.
I'll tell you another story, since I'm giving myself so much liberty to tell stories. I actually knew a disciple of Gurudev, and I knew that he was in a circumstance, that he needed food and warmth and whatever. But I remember Gurudev saying, what you mustn't do is to give money to a brahmachari, you know? And it's like I was so conflicted as to my duty to this guy. I mean, he was a dandy swami, so I shouldn't have been so confused. But I ended up leaving some cash, and you've no idea how much I kind of was agitated that I'd done the wrong thing, leaving money. Do you know what I mean? But it worked out all right. He smiled at me about it, so everything was all right. But so there's two sides. Sometimes giving money is actually inappropriate, and sometimes it's appropriate.
I think Guru Dev was very unique in refusing to accept
Absolutely.
monetary donations. I haven't
People
heard anyone who
thrown
did that.
out.
And,
People
and,
were
and
thrown
I'm
out.
still wondering, what was behind that?
Well,
Was
his
it
mum.
number one that he had some connection with Mahalakshmi and she would provide money mystically,
I'll tell
or was
you.
it that he had a rich donor who
No,
paid
I'll tell
everything he
you for
needed in
me.
secret?
His mother, when he decided to leave home at the age of 9, she made him promise that he wouldn't be a begging
Right.
sadhu.
Yes.
And
I read that in your
that
book.
was right the way through his life. He was never going to reach out his hand to somebody. And the story is that he never did.
Hmm.
And so you can thank his mum for that.
But
True.
it's a mystery how he built all the ashrams and rebuilt Jyotirmat and nearby temples without accepting money.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
So
is a funny one.
so
They
there
weren't
must
that
have
lucky.
been money behind the scenes, but I don't know.
I wonder that his own teacher set up a trust or something.
Or
I mean,
were Guru Dev, hey, were Guru Dev's parents wealthy? Could it be possible they left him a lot of money that he used
they were
to pay their way?
landowners. They were landlords, landowners.
A lot of
But
Brahmins are.
but he, if one's going to de-spiritualize it and demystify it, as I say, I think because his ashram in Benares and the adjoining building are both registered under the Krishnananda Trust,
Yes.
and that is the name of his teacher. So he either set up the trust for his teacher, or his teacher set up the trust. I'd like to know, but nobody's talking about it.
Interesting.
As a detective, I'm steamed up about it.
Yes, Detective Paul.
It's true.
Yeah.
Sorry to way off topic, but
I love it. Wherever we go. So, are there any other questions or comments on Puja or any other topics from anybody?
Yes. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, can you see me? Or it's August Henry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you were talking about the Amarnath Lingam, the ice lingam.
Oh, Paul had mentioned the ice lingam, yes.
we can't. Oh, there he is. Now we can see.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, I heard from friends at MIU in Fairfield that the ice lingam appeared on campus, and they built a shed around it and would only allow certain people to see it. Do you know anything about that?
Oh,
Yeah, I'd heard about that. Wasn't it a stalagmite was growing above the building that Maharishi was in. He got very excited about it. There is a connection. There's this, that people in this tradition think a lot to lingams and their formation, their natural formation. I don't know much about it.
Yeah, it was very whispered. It was very hush hush.
Yes.
And they were saying a Vedic god is now taken up residence, and they were only allowing the pundits to view it, as I understand it.
I'm not surprised it was hush hush. I'm not surprised they kept it quiet.
They put in coolers.
Oh.
No, I laughed. You just laughed like that. I did my laughing a few years back.
I love it. I mean, natural formations quite often are, seen as forms of God. I mean, every Shiva lingam, your traditional Shiva lingams in a temple are actually formed naturally. It's said that they're actually meteorites, and a traditional lingam only comes from the Narmada River. And it's said that they are meteorites that fell in the river and tumbled over centuries of time, millennia, into this perfectly oval shape. And if it has this specific mark on it, it's considered to be the form of Shiva. So, that's an example of a naturally formed image that is said to be the residence of God. There's an equivalent in the Vaishnava tradition of terms not coming, but another type of natural stone that's considered to be the form of Vishnu or Krishna. And the name's not coming to me right now. But yeah, quite often natural things form that are, given spiritual significance.
Well, I'd heard that the ice lingam in Amarnath had melted, and then this one appeared in Fairfield.
Wow. I haven't heard about Amarnath melting, but it's fascinating. I'm not surprised they kept it secret in Fairfield, because they really don't want to associate anything with Hinduism and the TM movement.
Mm-hmm. So your initiation was $35. You must have started when I did.
1976. It was cheap
Oh,
back
okay.
then.
I was 71. Yeah.
Mm, yes,
Huh.
but
Uh,
it really disturbed me years later when the price started going up, $250, then $500, and then over $1,000. And it's kind of like,
I
why are we
stopped
doing
teaching
this?
when it got,
It's killing the TM movement.
yeah, I couldn't, in good conscience, I couldn't teach anymore when it got too high.
Yeah,
So, and I was a very active teacher
yeah.
for
It's one
some
of the
time.
reasons I never became a TM teacher. It just,
Uh,
I saw that the movement had turned into more of a corporate money-making organization, and it broke my heart because I really, really wanted to, uh, uh, I really wanted to spread this experience of transcendence, but I just felt
We
uncomfortable.
all have
So,
that in
so
common.
we are really running on here. If
yes,
anyone
yes.
has any last minute comments before we close up, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, but it's fun to chat. I mean, that's why we set up these.
Yeah,
It's called satsang, isn't it? I mean, that's
yeah.
why we set them up because people need to communicate. It's not a formal
We
thing.
need we need a gathering where we can discuss spiritual and
Yeah,
high-minded topics
yeah.
rather
I
than
think.
sitting around talking about our favorite football teams.
Well, yeah, okay. I'm not into football, but whatever.
Can you hear
But
Yeah,
me?
so these gatherings are very important for spiritual growth to really help us,
heard a voice.
understand Vedic knowledge and refine our experiences. So,
Bob, can you hear me?
yes, who is this?
This is Jenna.
Hey, Jenna, how are you?
Hi.
Yeah, Jenna is a Vedic scholar herself. Used to live in Florida. I believe you're living in the Dallas area now.
Yes, I am. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this because my pathway started with TM as well in
Yeah,
1998. And
beautiful.
it still maintains to be the most consistent practice. I mean, I've accumulated so much, and what I love about what you're doing is bridging that knowledge, because I did feel a gap. I was having such depth of experience with TM, yet I
Yeah,
didn't have community or direct access to the teachings because I was in New York, far from a teacher at the time when I was a child. And so it was much later that I started accumulating more practice and knowledge, bringing me to the Yoga Sutras and then to Vedas. And so it's wonderful to have this shared because it seems so separate everywhere I study. So it's just wonderful to start. This is my first time joining you. So just to hear the conversation and the content and bridge them together, it's really quite powerful. So I thank you. I'm
thank you.
so grateful.
Yeah, I
for
hope you
this.
join us every week. And then the first Sunday of each month, Paul, of course, Paul's a great scholar, and he gives his presentation on his studies into the roots of our practice and Gurudev and Maharishi's history and such.
And
And
I love
then
the story too.
and then other teachers, we do what we can in between. But I should mention Jenna is a Sanskrit teacher. She teaches people how to chant Sanskrit. She has a class where people chant the Yoga Sutras together, and so
Yes,
she does wonderful work.
thank you. And if I can learn in one weekend, so can you. Any of you who wish to read fluently in Devanagari with correct pronunciation for reciting mantra, it is quite simple. If it's just in this kind of content of TM, maintaining that flow consciousness as a group, we can learn in one weekend the entire
Wow.
alphabet and have it memorized. It
Yeah,
is.
that's quite a claim.
I will be speaking on it tonight if you would be so kind to join me.
Yeah, although tonight I will be down in Naples
Yeah.
leading my monthly kirtan down there. So
That's the
maybe
tricky
next
part.
time.
They put in a webinar at a really strange time slot. Usually they're in like afternoon times, like this time would be great. So I'm hoping to do it again, but tonight it's going to be late 8 o'clock Eastern time, and it's hosted by the Hindu University of America. So
Cool.
yeah, I'll be
Yeah,
speaking.
Hindu University of America.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with their classes.
Yes.
We really should be wrapping up here. David kind of wants to have us end up.
We're
Thank you for your
like
comments,
naughty
Jenna,
kids.
and
We know we mustn't, so we just keep on doing it. We stretch it out. I mean, Avner was saying we've really got to close down because we don't have long talks other than Paul's one. So we've managed to do it again. We've managed to have a long talk again.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody next Sunday.
Thank you.
And
Jenna, could you possibly share a link maybe in the chat, Jenna, of your,
oh yeah,
if any,
Yes,
very
you-
quickly before before it's ended here,
absolutely. I will do that.
or even speak it out for people to write down.
Well, I can share the link. That'll probably be easier just to copy and paste.
Sure.
And thank you. Here we go, chat.
Bob, if I could ask one more quick question, where is that kirtan in Naples?
Oh, yeah, you live down this area, don't you?
I
Are
live
you-
in Hawaii, but I'm visiting, and my
Oh.
family's here. Yeah.
Sacred Soul Farm is a little
familiar
hippie
with that.
community
Okay.
at the far east end of Naples, out close to oh, what am I trying to say? Well, I mean, you could look them up online.
I'm familiar. I've heard of them. I've heard of them. So perfect.
Oh, good.
Yep. Thank you. Yeah,
Good.
great.
Oh, and I see Jenna's link here. I am going to copy this myself.
Thank you. And please share it with anyone you know who might be interested in learning Sanskrit. It's
Wonderful.
really the bridge that is missing at any academic level. It's just learning the alphabet strictly and beautifully in a
Yes.
meditative process. And
Yeah.
Nick, how long are you visiting for?
I visit often. My parents live here, but I'm just here for another 2 days,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately.
All right, because
Yeah.
I'll be heading that way in May. So
Oh, right on.
perhaps we'll meet again.
Yeah. So if you're interested, our kirtan starts at 5:30 and we have a potluck dinner afterwards and maybe a bonfire to sit around and chat at the end. A vegetarian potluck. So
Yeah, nice.
I'd love to see you out there.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, I think we should wrap up here. I hope everyone's gotten Jenna's link before the meeting is closed down. Thank you all for coming and bearing with me in this rapid fire of information that I barely know. I love the discussion at the end the best.
Great, thank you, Bob, for doing your bit. And I've got the unenviable task of actually thinking what I'm going to say next week, but I'm not going to worry too much.
You never worry. I love it.
We'll see.
All right. Jai Gurudev, everybody.
Everybody for coming. Yeah.
Thank you.